What is a rivalry? Two individuals putting everything on the line?
First words out of his mouth. It ain't like, it wasn't no like, good fight, this, that. First thing out of his mouth goes, Mick, you okay?
Fighters trading insults before fists fly.
And I wrote a short poem. It says there will be a killer and a thriller and a killer when I get the gorilla in Manila.
Years of bitter animosity and hatred.
Eric sees Marco as privileged, stuck up, too big for his britches.
Or what about a clash of ideologies?
I must break you.
All these pieces may fall into place, creating a jigsaw of friction. Yet boxing intensifies rivalry. Defeats can be forgotten, but being sparked out in front of friends, family, or even a whole nation, now that's haunting. The stakes are high. Fighters can lose their livelihood, mind, and possibly their life instantly. Conor Benn against Chris Eubank Jr. is a perfect cocktail of hatred, a throwback to old school conflicts which had previously been forgotten. Before we delve into why this matchup is so incredibly toxic, let's examine the importance of rivalries in selling fights. History's most memorable bouts, from Ali's trilogy against Frazier to Leonard's iconic matchups with Duran, reveal one key truth: personal animosity fuels viewership. A rivalry with an opponent who challenges your ideals and seeks to establish superiority over the same division simply creates drama. Without such an enemy, fighters struggle to captivate. Joe Calzaghe was possibly Britain's best ever fighter, retiring undefeated with a 46-0 record, yet he never received the necessary praise. He did not have a true domestic rival. Carl Froch was too late to the scene, and his calm demeanour prevented him from building much animosity with American boxers. Manchester pugilist Ricky Hatton would later state, "It's a shame for Calzaghe as he never had a Chris Eubank or Nigel Benn in his era. He won't be well known as he didn't have that rivalry to make him." But what does not having a Chris Eubank or Nigel Benn even mean?
On that particular night in question, I will show that I have what it takes. This man is nothing but, he's the real hype. I come up the hard way. I didn't prove myself, boy. You had your time. Let's have some parliamentary procedure here, all right?
Throughout 1990, Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr. cultivated British boxing's most iconic rivalry. There was genuine hatred between the fighters, but both were smart in exaggerating their personas to build an almost pantomime-like feud. As boxing journalist Ben Deers notes, both came from rough working-class roots, yet Ben despised Eubank for thinking he was a better person than himself. Eubank taught himself to speak like a toff via PG Wodehouse and the BBC World Service because he wanted to be as different to Ben as possible.
I have nothing to say to Nigel. I find the man intolerable in that he's so wild. I have no time for such people. He has no class as far as I see it.
Ben, meanwhile, was the no-nonsense brute, simply seeking to entertain the masses through his aggressive style and knockout power. Whilst Eubank spoke in philosophical terms, Ben simply stated his desired intentions.
I personally do hate him.
So is there any point in me asking you to shake hands after signing the contract?
No.
Yet this contrast worked exceptionally well. Their rematch in October 1993 would draw 16.5 million viewers in Britain alone, and a reported global TV audience of 500 million. Mental. Almost exactly 35 years after the rivalry's birth, the two warriors' offspring now face off. But despite the lapse in time, why change a winning formula?
I don't hate this man. I would never give him that type of power over me. I hate what he stands for.
I have to say, there seems an element of genuine hate between these two, Ambrose.
For sure.
I don't hate the man. I just want his WBO title.
Oh, wait.
You'll be a welterweight.
And you are going to get beat. You are going to get rendered unconscious by a welterweight. Rendered. Yeah, exactly. Like Liam's.
The thing about him, he's all hype. He's all hype, you know, and I can't wait to November the 18th to to give him a good hiding.
Both fighters have now effectively unpaused the tape of their dad's feud before playing the same roles in the play to ensure guaranteed success. Eubank, like his father, acts the wise philosopher, belittling Ben as inexperienced and naive.
I gave up on my dreams of being the hero a long time ago. The other still wants and believes and dreams and prays.
Chris, speak on behalf of yourself.
Of being
speak on behalf of
the
yourself.
good guy, of being the golden boy. That's what I believe.
No, speak.
Ben assumes the straight talker role, setting outright that Eubank lacks credentials and ducks serious opponents regularly.
Yeah. Wow. Do you know what I mean? You choose to fight a welterweight over Shiraz.
What was your
over Janibek, over Adamus, over anybody with a world title.
No, he went out there, he done a job on a guy. Who was it? Another Sanchez, Gomez, Lopez. Who was it? Another road sweeper? Hey, I've done that before.
You starting to see the pattern? Ultimately, this bout, due largely to the ongoing legacy, is just a bit different from more modern rivalries. It seems rehearsed and recited at times, like a performance, but this captivated the public imagination previously, so why can't it now? But there are still many who see distinctions between this rivalry and that of their fathers. Many would say Eubank Sr. and Nigel were both light years ahead of their sons in terms of overall skill and proved it by beating talented opposition. Yet it's worth noting that up until their first matchup in November 1990, only Ben had fought anyone of note in the form of Michael Watson, Iran Barkley and Doug DeWitt. Eubank Sr., however, was untested in his come-up, aside from Hugo Antonio Corti perhaps. Ironically, the reverse is true with the juniors, as Eubank Jr. boasts notable wins against James DeGale, Liam Smith and Liam Williams, while Conor Benn lacks any well-known opponents. So the rivalry still reflects a more weathered practitioner against a relatively unknown entity, in the mainstream at least. On the point of skill, I've seen discontent and even anger online that both these so-called mediocre boxers are piggybacking off their family legacies and receiving more attention than much more skilled operators in the sport. But what people should remember, the excitement of a rivalry isn't necessarily dictated by the ability. Mickey Ward against Arturo Gatti is widely considered one of the best trilogies of all time, and although strong pugilists, they were not absolute world beaters in my opinion. Yet they both left everything out there in the ring, giving every ounce of effort to entertain the masses. In fact, Ben Deers and many others believe that the Ben vs Eubank Sr. matchup was actually a clash between the third and fourth best middleweights in Britain alone, suggesting that both Michael Watson and Harold Graham were better boxers. But it was the power of the rivalry and the interest surrounding the two men's personas which ensured they were in the headlines. I'd even say that Michael Nunn, Mike McCallum and James Toney were greater middleweight practitioners at that particular time. And yet, Ben against Eubank Sr. is still considered the most enticing matchup in British boxing history. Therefore, skill won't necessarily determine how exciting the upcoming bout is if Conor and Chris are prepared to exert themselves in the ring. Amongst much of the older generation in Britain who witnessed the two brutal wars between the fathers, there's frustration over how inconclusive the outcome was. With Eubank having won the first fight, the second was scored as a draw, although many believed Nigel Benn had shaded it. Deers notes that the media was gagging for a third fight. The punters would have sold their own mothers for a ticket to see a third fight, but inevitable and boxing don't go. Consequently, the viewers were left wanting, with the outcome of a third matchup being consigned to speculation. Many now hope, perhaps out of desperation, that Ben against Eubank Jr. will finally put to bed the question over which family has a greater legacy, perhaps providing some closure on a case case which has been open for over 30 years now. This effectively ensures the rivalry between the two and ensuing pressure to perform is ramped up to exceptional levels. Although not essential in a rivalry, controversy and intrigue can certainly heighten it. George Foreman claimed that in his fight with Muhammad Ali in Zaire, he was drugged by the water he was drinking. Or what about Ali's phantom punch, which floored Sonny Liston in their second bout? Did Roberto Duran actually say no mas, meaning no more, in the second fight with Sugar Ray Leonard? These controversies and speculation cultivate a storyline, driving conversation and theories. Benn against Eubank Sr. had controversy, mainly surrounding an alleged quote from Eubank labelling boxing a mug's game. But did he genuinely say that? Sanjeev Shetty points out in his book No Middle Ground that Eubank instead said, "Boxing at a journeyman's level is a mug's game. Taking shots around the head for a pittance is without a doubt a thankless task and a mug's game." The misquote enraged boxers and fans alike, through openly criticising the widely loved Sweet Science and making Chris, a boxer, seem a hypocrite. But Nigel Benn and his promoter Mendy Ambrose sought to utilise this controversy to better sell the fight.
In regards to Chris saying that boxing is a mug's game, we've got something to show you. It's a piece of our own artwork. Perhaps you'd like to home in on that. It's a mug's game. And I'd say this, a Shakespearean quote for you young man to learn. How much sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless child. That's from all the professional boxers in this country.
Benn against Eubank Jr. is certainly shrouded in controversy already. Their scheduled bout for October 2022 was cancelled after Conor Benn tested positive for the fertility drug clomiphene. This substance is banned inside and outside competition by the World Anti-Doping Agency, and it therefore took 2 years for Benn to get his provisional doping suspension lifted. Conor claimed the positive test came from an overconsumption of eggs, and Eubank Jr. made his disbelief known. Eubank Jr. has outright stated that he still views Conor as a drugs cheat and has questioned both his morality and the Benn family legacy because of it.
A drug cheat and a man who did everything in his power to help him get away with it.
This controversy surrounding whether or not he actually took performance enhancers and how Eubank Jr. has cleverly used it to further sell the fight and generate viral clips adds to the fierceness of the rivalry. It's worth highlighting the rehydration clause issue also. Despite the £160 agreed weigh-in limit for both fighters, Chris Eubank Jr., due to him being at a natural weight advantage, will have to re-weigh in on the fight night to ensure he is below a £170 limit. If he fails to do so, he may be fined or even see the bout cancelled. This discrepancy further fuels the arguments between the pair and, in my opinion, makes the rivalry all the more fascinating. I wanted to make this video to highlight the ingredients of a good old-fashioned rivalry, to showcase that the Benn against Eubank Jr. matchup actually has a lot of potential. It's easy to render it as a B-list battle between two nepotism babies with a fraction of the skill of their fathers, but I believe this opinion is slightly redundant. As long as the two fighters grasp the gravity of their legacies which are on the line and are prepared to give everything in the tank to ensure their family name reigns supreme, I feel the fight could be a potential classic. You'd have to give Eubank the edge. He's naturally the larger man, boasting better experience and likely a more level-headed temperament. In fact, as his father once noted, I want Nigel Benn to be angry where he lacks control. While Conor Benn appears to have inherited his father's hot-headedness, and if he fails to channel this correctly, he may end up walking onto a massive shot. But from previous fights and training footage, Benn evidently has great speed and power, though will this translate well to the £160 category? Only time will tell. But now I'd like to hear what you guys think. Who do you predict will win? Will the fight live up to the 30 odd years of hype? Or will it expose the two boxers as poor caricatures of their fathers? Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching guys. Please consider leaving a like and subscribing, it really does mean the most. I basically made this video to provide a little more context and insight into the Eubank-Benn rivalry. I'm personally very excited, and I hope you guys are slightly more so now. If so, I've done my job correctly. Thank you so much for watching. More content is on its way, so keep an eye out for that. Let's try and get to 40k by the end of the year, and yeah, that's everything. Thanks guys, cheers.